20 minutes, 10 minutes behind. Okay, we're live, and we acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq First Nation. Call to order. I just want to thank councillors and staff who were here on Saturday for the Freedom of the City proclamation. We had two councillors that called in, Councillors McCabe and McKinnon. And again, thanks to the deputy, Councillor Bernard, McAleer, Ramsey, and McCabe, and Councillor Beck. Councillor Beck was unable to get here, and Councillor Matard for showing up. Thank you. And secondly, I don't know if you did get out Saturday night, but on Victoria Row was the Moonlight Bazaar, and it was a phenomenal night. Thousands of people out up on the Confederation Centre Plaza, and it was on a Saturday night on September 23rd. And last but not least, today is a big day for Councillor Kevin Ramsey. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Councillor Ramsey. Yeah. We just wanted to welcome you here. And is it 80? Oh, declarations of conflict of interest. None. Approval of agenda. Moved by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor Matard. All those in favour? Okay. Motion to move into a closed session as per the MGA, Municipal Government Act of Prince Edward Island, Section 119, subsection 1D, Human Resource Matter, CAO contract. So I need a motion to move. You're moving it, Councillor Tweel? Yeah. Are you moving it? No. Okay, I need someone to move the resolution. Moved by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor Beck. Resolution's on the floor. Councillor Twila.
Yeah.
Can you just stand up? No, we're just debating the motion.
I think that in the interest of time, we have an agenda here that a lot of people are waiting for. I would suggest that we do the closed door item after we finish our agenda.
No, we're not doing it after, because in the past, we've been worn out. We want to deal with this right away because the CAO has to come back in. It's on the floor, so you're objecting to it, you just vote against it. Question called? Question's called. All those in favor? All those against? Okay, 8-2. Okay, could I ask the gallery to leave, please? Okay, we're back in an open session. Just to report on the closed session regarding our CAO, this matter will be moved back to Human Resources Standing Committee, chaired by Justin Mattard, Councillor Justin Mattard, and a report will be forthcoming from the committee. So on the agenda, under number 6, presentation resolutions, we have a presentation by Advantis, is that correct? Via Teams. Do you have that ready to go? Yes, hopefully. Okay. And that falls under, I believe, Councillor Beck, Communications. Do you want to give us a little background there, Councillor Beck?
Just by way of context, it was, we did this is a biannual community survey that we're done, and we use it to help guide our priorities and gather some feedback in order to help shape future initiatives that might be taken in, and it's a good way to get the pulse on what the community residents are feeling. And we had 500 telephone interviews that took place, which was great. So we succeeded our target in that, and I think overall it was encouraging, positive to hear what the information that did come out of it, and I would pass it over to Advantis to maybe share a little bit more in detail about what some of the things that were found and what the possible next steps might be.
Thank you, Councillor Beck. Are we ready to? And you can see it on the 2 screens.
It's on 2 screens right now?
Yeah, well, no.
Sorry.
It's on the screens for all councillors, and we have 2 large screens here in the chamber,
Okay.
so that's great.
Okay, super.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely, yes, I'm sorry. So my name's Andy Scollay. I'm a consultant with Advantis. We're a Canadian research company, and we were contracted to do the 2023 community survey. So I'll jump straight into it, and thank you for the introduction. I think we've kind of covered some of the methodology part of this already, but just at a very high level, I'll reiterate that this is based on 500 telephone interviews with a demographically representative sample of citizens of the city, done by telephone. When you're looking at results, please bear in mind this is a sample of 500, so results are accurate to within plus or minus approximately 4%. So if something is, say, 50%, 50% of people say they are satisfied with the service, we can assume that the true value of that, if you surveyed the entire population, would be between 46 and 54. Very quickly, just to note as well that at the same time, or just a little bit after we fielded this telephone survey, there was an online survey as well that all residents could participate in. So every household in the city received a postcard with a few different options in which they could log into the online survey. These results will not be featured in this presentation, but they are available to review as well. And in addition to asking all the same questions that were asked in the telephone survey, there was also an opportunity for people to add additional feedback as well. So lots of good suggestions put forward by citizens as well. One of the first questions we asked was about overall quality of life and how citizens rate their quality of life right now. As you can see here, that 75% of the people that we spoke to say they have a very good or good quality of life, and another 21% say it's acceptable, and just under 5% of people said it's poor or very poor. By way of comparison, Advantis also fields a national survey asked of cities across Canada, a very similar question to this, or exactly the same question, I should say, as this. When we look at Atlantic cities minus Charlottetown, the average score that we get from those cities is 50%, so it's quite a bit higher in Charlottetown right now. As a follow-up to that question of how people rate their quality of life, we asked why they gave that rating. For people who rated very good, good, or acceptable, the most common themes that came from those mentions, and they were allowed to mention up to 3 different factors that they felt influenced their quality of life. The most common mentions being that they found it's easy to get around the city, it's walkable, or it's got good transit. Those tended to be clustered together, those comments. People might mention 2 or 3 of those things at the same time. They also mentioned that it feels safe and that there's low crime rates, and that the friendliness of the people as well contributes to their quality of life. Also, about 1 in 7 people mentioned there are things to do, there's activities, there's entertainment in the city, there's green space, and there's good municipal services. We didn't have that many people, as you can see from here. 4% from a base of, from a sample of 500 is about 20 people say that they had a poor or very, they feel they have a poor or very poor quality of life. So very qualitatively, take these comments at the bottom of this slide very qualitatively, but of the people who did say that, there was mentions of lack of affordability in general, housing cost and availability, homelessness, poor municipal services, road and infrastructure mentions, and some comments about transit and difficulty getting around. We asked people about their level of agreement with the following statements. I'm proud to say that I live in Charlottetown. 95% of people said they strongly agree or somewhat agree, with 6 in 10 people actually saying strongly agree with that statement. With respect to the statement, Charlottetown is a welcoming and inclusive community. 91% of people agreed with that statement, and about half of those strongly agree with that. We also asked, in general, how safe people feel in the city of Charlottetown, and 93% say they feel very safe or somewhat safe, and less than 1 in 10 people say they don't feel safe. Regarding the level and quality of services provided by the city, 87% of people said that they are either very satisfied or somewhat satisfied, the majority saying that they're somewhat satisfied. This is roughly in line with the last time this question was asked in the 2021 survey, when 89% of people said they're somewhat or very satisfied. And again, for a comparative measure, when we ask the same question in other cities in the Atlantic region, 70% of people say they're very satisfied or somewhat satisfied. We asked about a range of community services and people's level of satisfaction with those. I won't go through each individually, but generally speaking, for the community services, at least 7 in 10 people said they are very or somewhat satisfied with these. We've highlighted some that had slightly higher dissatisfaction, although that does need to be put into context because it's still really only about 1 in 7 people, but active transportation routes, trails and pathways, sustainability programs, indoor recreation facilities and urban forestry initiatives had slightly higher dissatisfaction relative to the rest of the community services listed, but still really only 1 in 7. Similarly, on infrastructure and development services, at least 3/4 or 2 in 3, at least 2 in 3 people said that they're satisfied with most of these services, with the exception of short-term rental regulations, where we had slightly more divided opinion. You can see there's a lot of people who say don't know to this question. That's the 30% bar at the very bottom of the screen. But even just taking into account the blue bars you see for short-term rental regulations, it's fairly divided between people who say they're satisfied and not very satisfied or not at all satisfied. And finally, the last aspect we asked for with respect to services were community safety services. Overall fire services, police services, efforts in crime control, and speed and traffic enforcement. Again, at least 7 in 10 people say they are satisfied, somewhat or very satisfied with these. Fire services is a little bit down relative to what we measured in 2021. It's dropped from 99 to 92%, but still very high, and in line with what we've seen in other cities in the area as well. Police services, similarly, it's in line with what was measured in 2021 and higher when compared to other cities in the area. When we look at all those different services, we don't ask people directly how important they think those services are, but instead what we do is we take their level of satisfaction and run a regression model to see how good each of those services are at predicting people's overall level of satisfaction. So their overall rating for satisfaction with level and quality of services. How much do we think that each one of these things impacts that? And let's say it's based on a regression model that determines whether or not changes to their rating of that factor actually is likely to lead to an increase or decrease into the overall satisfaction level. So of the 20 or so, I think there's 25 different factors that we measured, the different services that we measured, 8 of them had a significant impact on overall satisfaction. So we would expect that changes in the proportion of people who say they're satisfied with, say, sidewalk and road maintenance would lead to an increase or decrease in the overall level of satisfaction. As we look at this chart, there's I'll just navigate from kind of left to right counterclockwise. The left of the chart, the top left of the chart, primary improve. These are factors that have a high importance, so they're highly related to overall satisfaction with level and quality of services. And they have, relative to the other driving factors here, they have a lower level of satisfaction currently. So what this means is there's more, they're influential on overall level of satisfaction, but relative to other factors, there's more room to improve. Below that, on the secondary improve, those 2 factors, indoor recreation facilities and community events and local tourism initiatives, these are things that have slightly less impact, so we'd be less likely to see a change in overall level of satisfaction if scores to these attributes changed. But they also have, relative to the services labeled 6 to 8, they also have lower current satisfaction, so there is some room to improve. And finally, customer service provided by the city staff, parks and green space, and feeling of safety. Again, these influence your overall level of satisfaction, but they already have pretty high scores. So they already have relatively high scores. So that the key consideration with these factors is not so much on improvement, but on maintenance, on making sure that you keep scores up, because if you don't, then they're likely to bring overall satisfaction down. We also asked people about their rating of the city's strategic plan, and in particular, how they'd rate the city on its vision to respect the past, embrace the future, and create a community for everyone. About 4 in 10 people rated this vision good or excellent. With respect to particular strategic priorities, all of those shown here were deemed to be important by those we asked. However, infrastructure and environment projects to address the growing city and manage issues arising from climate change, and community building and placemaking initiatives to enhance Charlottetown as a place to live and destination to visit. There's higher levels of agreement with those being important relative to governance and civic engagement activities, and focusing on inclusive economic growth in terms of people and economic sectors. Other initiatives, other corporate priorities and initiatives, community safety and cleanliness initiative, 6 in 10 people are rating that excellent or good at the moment. Long-term growth and development had, again, more divided opinion on this. We had 29% of people who rate that as good or excellent, but 35% of people said it's poor or very poor at the moment. Finally, we asked people if they've contacted the city or had any interaction with the city in the past 12 months. If so, how, and what their experience was, and how they prefer to receive information going forward. So what we learned is that just under half of the people we surveyed said they had some sort of interaction with the city in the past 12 months, with just over half of that half, saying it was by phone, and just under half in person. Of the people who did have some sort of interaction with city or staff, 82% are satisfied with the service that they received from that interaction. In terms of the information that they received from the city of Charlottetown, 1 in 3 people said it's too little. 62% just enough, and only 2% said they're getting too much at the moment. Going forward, the preferred ways to receive information would be social media. About half the people asked said that'd be their preference going forward. 4 in 10 say the city's website, and another third say email. There are some differences demographically we haven't shown here, but these are just the aggregated results. And that's what we have to share. I can certainly field any questions anyone has.
Thank you kindly. Are there any questions about the survey? CAO Eleanor or Janice Fogarty, is this survey on our website yet, or charlottetownhall.com?
Thank you, Your Worship. It will be on charlottetownhall.ca this week.
And that is charlottetownhall.ca or .com?
.ca.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions? Well, I want to thank excuse me, Deputy Mayor Yankov, go right ahead.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if it's going to be on the Charlottetown Hall website, are we also going to have a link on our regular website in case there's still folks that aren't familiar with that second website that we have? For whoever that question might go to, Your Worship.
That would go to the Chair of Strategic Priorities, Communication, and Intergovernmental Cooperation. Councillor Beck.
When we're having a meeting on Thursday, so we will have some further updates at that time, and that is an agenda item on our next committee meeting, so we will be discussing that.
Good.
And coming into merging and familiarizing, updating, making it the most effective tool that we can. That'll be part of the process, but that's certainly, Janice, if you had anything else you wanted to add to that?
Thank you. There will be a link to the project on charlottetownhall.ca. We will be issuing a media release later on this week, and there will be a link to it in there. All of our media releases always go on our website anyway. We will also be doing social media, and all of our social media posts will have links back to the charlottetownhall.ca project.
Yes, Deputy Mayor, we can agree that it's a good news report. Okay, is that all right, Councillor Beck? We'll just move it forward there. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you to you and your team, and I'm sure there will be a follow-up. Thank you, Janice. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
So, CAO Eleanor, we have 2 resolutions for environment sustainability. Councillor Bernard, RFQ award for fall tree order.
Can I just ask, can we change C up to B and B to C? I know we have some people here, I don't think they're here for the tree order. I just want to, it takes time and explanation for the next 2.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if we can put C up.
Councillor Duran, we already approved the agenda. This shouldn't take too long, correct? Okay, can we read those? Oh, do you want to speak to it first? Councillor Bernard, please.
Sure, yeah. Your Worship, the tree order is for $54,000. The city so far to date, Your Worship, because of Fiona, has planted 2,200 trees. So the staff's been doing very well. This is an order now coming in for the fall for another 250 trees. So, thank you.
Okay, Eleanor, CAO Eleanor, can you please read the resolution?
Thank you, Your Worship. Environment and Sustainability Resolution Number 1, moved by Councillor Bernard, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. Be it resolved that the City of Charlottetown review and approve the purchase of trees from Dutch Master Nurseries Limited in the amount of $54,065 plus HST, and that the Mayor and CAO are hereby authorized to execute standard contracts and agreements to implement this resolution.
Questions called. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, 10-0. Do you wish to give a little bit of background on the second one, Councillor Bernard?
The second resolution is for, and we've talked about it here before, it's the last diesel buses that the city will be buying before we go to electrification. This is just to get us over the hump until the electric buses arrive, Your Worship, and the new building is up and running. Thank you.
Just turn your mic on there, please. Go ahead.
This is also funded between the two levels of government and the city. Okay. Thank you.
CAO, Eleanor, can you read the resolution?
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by Councillor Bernard, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. Be it resolved that the City of Charlottetown approve the purchase of 3 new diesel buses from Nova Bus for $2,313,710.85 plus tax, and that the Mayor and CAO are hereby authorized to execute standard contracts and agreements to implement this resolution.
Questions called? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, 10-0. Right on. Thank you, Councillor Bernard. And the next resolution is 2 planning and heritage resolutions. First one is application for 1-year extension of the major variance allowing for 2 modular buildings, each containing 25 emergency housing, transitional housing units located at 68 Park Street, PID number 365593. Second resolution is an application for 1 modular building to serve as an overdose prevention site, OPS, for 1 year, I believe at the same address. CAO, Eleanor, is that correct?
Yep.
It is. 68 Park Street, and it would be the same PID number, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the deputy, do you wish to speak to it, or do you want to put the resolution on the floor first?
I can just quickly speak to it.
Go ahead.
Yep. Thank you, folks. Yeah, the planning board had a special meeting on September 13th. The copies of the planning board minutes as well as the reports are in your package. They're very lengthy, and I hope you all had the opportunity to either tune in last week, listen to the meeting, or also to read the reports. We do have our planner, Laurel Palmer Thompson, here for any clarification from council. The planning board has taken staff's recommendation, and they are seeking approval from council to approve both of these variances. So council, I just encourage you, when these resolutions come to the floor, we look at 2 major ways to look at these applications, and they're based on land use and community impact. So just encouraging everyone to take that opportunity to speak to the resolutions when they come on the floor. And if anyone has any questions from me, I'll do my best to answer. Thank you.
Yeah. CAO, Eleanor, can we read the resolution first to put it on? No, we just want to put it on the floor first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Planning and Heritage Committee Resolution Number 1, moved by Councillor McAleer, seconded by Councillor Beck. Be it resolved that the request for a temporary use variance to accommodate a housing facility consisting of 2 modular complexes, each containing 25 units for a period not to exceed 1 year from the date of the building and development permit for the property located at 15 Park Street, PID 365593, be approved, subject to the following recommendations from Police, Fire, Public Works Departments, and the operational specifications submitted by PEI Housing Corporation in their application submission. Number 1, the province provides City of Charlottetown Police Services with funding to the satisfaction of the City of Charlottetown Chief of Police under a Safe Spaces Agreement for 4 police officers to serve the area of influence, which represents a 20-minute walking radius around the boundary of subject property, see attachment G in the report, for a period of 1 year from the date of building and development permit issuance. Condition number 2, the province funds and operates daily garbage and safe disposal cleanup services within the public right-of-way throughout the area of influence described in condition number 1 above. Condition number 3, The province designs and installs fire sprinkler systems within the 2 modular structures to the satisfaction of the City of Charlottetown Fire Chief. 4, that the main entrance to the facility be relocated to the satisfaction of the manager of the city's Public Works Department. 5, the province designs, funds, and constructs to the satisfaction of the manager of the city's Public Works Department a new public sidewalk and lighting across PIDs 336, 537, and 825, 927, ensuring a direct and safe pedestrian connection between the 500 lot area and the access that serves the temporary shelter and overdose prevention site, as well as constructs fencing which restricts access to the subject property from Beach and Park Street. 6, any further planning and development applications by the province for the subject property shall be fully compliant with the requirements set out in Section 3.5A, Eastern Gateway Waterfront of the City of Charlottetown Official Plan and Section 44, Comprehensive Development Area Zone of the City of Charlottetown Zoning and Development Bylaw. An extension of the temporary use major variance approval shall be prohibited.
Okay. So just before we begin the discussion, I'm going to follow the procedural bylaw very closely because I'm sure we'll have lots of speakers to this issue. So it's 5 minutes to start. Your second time, 2 minutes. So if you have a number of questions that you want to ask, put your questions in your first 5 minutes or in your second 2 minutes. We're not going up and down because I think there will be a lot of discussion on both resolutions, as there was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Deputy Mayor Yankup, there was a lot of discussion at the Planning Board meeting on the 13th of September. Councillor Tweel.
I watched the meeting, that 4-hour meeting, tried to pay close attention to what was being stated, listen to what the residents had to say. You look back over the last year and the commitment that the province was supposed to make, however, to no avail when it came to safety and security of the residents that live in Park Street and Beach Street, Kensington Road, all in through that area. It's no different. You want to draw the analogy. It's no different than the outreach center. Province keeps coming to the city, asking for variances, asking for permission, their initiatives, their programs, their funding, and yet it's the residents, the taxpayers that are being penalized because they don't feel safe in their community, and rightly so. Trespassing, violence, intimidation, theft, among other things that are happening in this community. Do you know that there's at least 25 properties, approximately 25 properties, between Park Street up to the Outreach Center that are for sale? 25. That's amazing. That's simply amazing. And why we would even entertain the thought after what the residents in that particular area has experienced and what the residents up around the Outreach Center has experienced. I don't even know how we could even entertain the thought. There's no trust from the residents. There's no credibility. And to suggest, well, you have to do this, and of course, we don't have the environmental study done. I've asked that at the last meeting. We don't have to do an environmental study because it's temporary. That's what was told to me and all members of council. It's temporary. So when some of the discussions had taken place at the planning board meeting and the representatives from housing was asked the question, well, what is the plan? What is the plan? Well, we're going to have a comprehensive plan. Okay, why don't you elaborate? Paraphrasing. Why don't you elaborate? What is the plan? Well, the plan is we're going to have mobile units. So there is no plan. There's not going to be a plan next year, and there's not going to be a plan the year after. It's going to be the same old, same old. Instead of providing proper housing, that can stand on its own. That's not proper housing. And by the way, the province does provide housing, hotels and motel rooms. Representative from Housing didn't tell us that. There's a number of hotels and motels in this city that does provide housing that the province contracts through. So it's really upset a lot of people in this community and in this city. And it really annoys me to no end how the province is picking on this section of the city as a dumping ground. Shame on them.
Deputy Mayor Yankoff.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be supporting this resolution this evening for the temporary extension for this temporary shelter variance, and I think we see it's clear in the resolution that this is the last kick at the can for the province, and we certainly hope that this time next year looks very different than this time today. And, the city is here. We've always been here to work with the other levels of government. I encourage us all to get out of our silos, work together with the residents. But I also really hope that the province comes to us and comes to the residents of Charlottetown with a clear, concise plan that includes accountability, it includes public consultation, it includes a concise plan for the residents and those that are affected with this housing crisis. So anyhow, that's about all I've got to say on this resolution this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Councillor Mattard.
Thank you, Your Worship. Over the past several months, I've spoken with many residents in and around Park Street, Beach Street, Belmont, Edward, Fitzroy, Esher, St. Peter's Road, and more. They understood the shelter was to be a one-year temporary occupancy with the goal of the government implementing a more permanent, sustainable solution for the homeless community in the city of Charlottetown. Now residents are being asked again to accept a second one-year temporary variance for the continued use of the shelter on Park Street. The question that I received the most from the residents was, why hasn't the government done anything over the past year to address this issue? Here we are, 2 months away from the winter and the cold weather, and council is here tonight debating whether or not to proceed with this variance for the shelter. This should not be happening. However, the city is still yet to see a long-term plan for housing on our homeless community. The government needs to address the long-term strategy as opposed to implementing temporary solutions beyond this year. So through my discussions, by most accounts, it is felt that the shelter is needed and is providing much-needed temporary service for the unhoused, especially during the colder months. However, the residents of these areas have expressed that there has been some challenges with having the emergency shelter on Park Street. There has been some cases of trespassing, property damage, theft, illegal use of drugs in our parks, discarded needles and garbage in parking lot and the Joe Giz Park. So in order for this variance to pass this evening, there needs to be more checks and balances implemented to address the challenges faced over the past year. So the major variance outlines here it's 6 recommendations. So to the chair, I won't go through them all because they're listed here in the package. The Chair of Planning, can you confirm if these are only recommendations or if these conditions set out by the Planning Board and the applicant must agree prior to approval and granting of the permit? My next question is, since these are conditions of the permit, who is responsible for ensuring these terms and conditions are met before the permit is issued? And what happens if they are unable to meet? What happens if the applicant is unable to meet the conditions before the end of the current permit, which I believe is October 13th? and the start of the new permit. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Yankoff?
Thank you, Councilor Matart, for your questions. I can let you know that the terms in the development agreement that are outlined in that resolution are not options for the applicant. They are musts, and in order to get a permit from the Planning and Heritage Department, they must all be adhered to before they receive that permit. As for checks and balances, I'm going to take a stab at each of the ones will be responsible in each of the various departments. But as for that specific person, whether it's a bylaw enforcement officer or not, I think I'm going to defer that to our planner, Laurel Palmer Thompson, to just confirm with us where those checks and balances would fall into place. And so thank you for your questions.
Laurel Palmer Thompson. Can you, are they recommendations, conditions? Could you please clarify?
Yes, Your Worship, through CEO Mohammed. Those conditions that are included within the resolution are indeed conditions. They have to be adhered to prior to permit approval. Those were recommendations from the various departments that we sent the application through for review and comment on. So police required specific things, fire required specific things, public works. So all of those things have to be adhered to, and it would be those departments confirming that those things are done. And once they are complete, they would let the planning department know that it's been completed and that we are okay to issue a permit at that stage.
Councillor McAleer.
Yeah, no, as is evident, I'm supporting the resolution for, that's recommended by the Planning Department to extend the variance for the emergency shelter on Park Street. This decision of mine is based on last year's experience. The statistics of usage has indicated maximum capacity of the 50 beds was not uncommon. The expectation that the demand will continue, I think, is evident, and we need to continue to support this service and encourage the provincial government to address affordable housing in the province. Thank you.
Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I will be supporting the extension for the temporary shelters. But my concern is, and it goes back to piggybacking what Justin said and what Laurel said, is I'm not sure how it's going to be possible for them to meet the conditions. And I don't want that coming back to look like it's not like we're not supporting what they want to do. Back in June, they talked about the temporary, the sprinkler system in these mobile units. And that's part of the condition for these, for the permit to go. In June, it said in the legislature, they often take weeks, if not months, to complete putting these sprinkler systems in. Last week at Planning Board, we heard from the province to say that it was going to tender the next week for the sprinkler system. So if it's only gone to tender and it takes weeks to months to complete, how are they going to get that condition in? You know, we've put this condition in because we have a national fire code that they have to meet. They obviously know this, but who's that going to fall to? And you're right, Justin, it's going to be cold very soon. It's cold now.
Yes. Councillor Matard. No, just 1 second. I have to go back to the Deputy Mayor, the Chair of Planning, and I think she may want to refer to some professionals.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. And I will ask Laurel Palmer Thompson to address this, but before I do, it's very clear in the resolution and the development agreement that states that these actionable items have to be completed by the various departments before Planning and Heritage sign off on the permit. So I ask the same question as you then. You know, where do we go with it, you know, if people are cold and they don't have this completed? So I really thank you for this question because I really think it's a super important question to be answered. So I'll refer that over to Laurel Palmer Thompson.
Yes,
Laurel
Your
Palmer.
Worship. So it is my understanding that the fire department is working with the province to ensure that the sprinkler system is in place on time. The onus is on the province to make sure that they do have the necessary sprinkler systems in place, and that they have to get an RFP out in order to get a company that will install this. So that is a condition of the permit, and like I said earlier, unless that sprinkler system is put in place, then we wouldn't be issuing a permit because it is a public safety issue.
Thank you.
So we also have to be concerned about the people that are sleeping in that, those units overnight, to make sure that there is the proper safety equipment in place.
And Laurel, or through the chair, this has been discussed with fire services, correct? Can you just answer that, Deputy?
Thank you. I know in the report in your package, each of the departments have touched on this: Public Works, Protective Services, Fire. And so, yes, the question would be, yes, these have been discussed. And just to reiterate back, they confirm that the sprinkler systems do have to be in place in order for it to get the check mark from the fire department, in order for Planning and Heritage to issue a permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Doran?
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Thank you, Chair Alana. You know, I'm sitting here and I hear about all the support for this. The province had a year. They could have moved this site. They could have made other arrangements. These residents of this area are terrified. You know, they call me. I've met with some ladies there. They say there's people on my deck at 3 a.m. You know, I'm terrified to go out. I'm terrified to walk my dog. There's other people say I can't leave my child home. I'm working. I'm terrified. You know, they come and they destroy. They're in our garbage. They're stealing our stuff. But nobody seems to listen to that. What the province wants. What's the province going to do here? They had a year. They did nothing. You, Mr. Mayor, said they have an agreement with some hotels. Use that. Move this site somewhere where a hospital is, or somewhere else. Not in a residential area where people are terrified at night. They're terrified to go to bed. So we sit here and say, okay, I'm supporting this. I agree. It's a homeless issue we have now, and these people have to be housed somewhere. And I understand that. God forbid it wouldn't be me one day. I'm pray to God that wouldn't happen. But if there's a place to go, a hotel, or this encampment is moved to a better place, you know, that's what I hope. You know, I don't want to talk to these people anymore that they're terrified. They're terrified to go to bed at night. You know, I feel for them. The province had a year. Now we're talking about a sprinkler. They've been in it a year. They didn't have a sprinkler. You know, how are we going to hire 4 new police officers? Our police chief says we can't get them. They're not available. So mysteriously, we're going to hire 4 more. Where are we going to build the sidewalk? We're going to build a sidewalk in a month or two before the storms come? I mean, all these things, you know, they say they're going to address it, but it's not there. This is not the site. We have to work with the province to get a more acceptable site where these people are not terrified. These are residents of the city of Charlottetown, and they're terrified to go to bed. They're terrified to leave their car unlocked. They get up in the middle of the night and they run out. You know, their barbecues are stolen, their sheds are stolen, their bikes are stolen. This is not the place for this. I will definitely not support this. And I'm on 1 vote, but I've met with these people. I've talked to them on the phone. You know, their wives, their kids, their husbands, everyone's scared. And we have the ability to say, no, we're not going to listen to you. You know, the province said we're going to do this or that and the other thing. It hasn't come in the last year. Why was the dragging of the feet? This should have been done. There should have been a better place in place. You know, there's lots of chance to get building. You know, the province going out to tender. I don't know what their budget is for building, but they can certainly get workers to do it. I mean, it's the province. You know, they built a beautiful place down the Canadian Mental Health Association. They built buildings, they stacked them up. The province has land for that. And I mean, we can do what we can to help them, but this is not the right spot. This is not the right spot for those residents. That's all I can say on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Drawn. And Councillor Drawn, I didn't make reference to the hotels, motels. That was Councillor Twill. Can I just go with Councillor McTard first? He's got a question. Or do you want to respond to that? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Duran. I doubt there's anybody in the chamber today as council that disagrees with what you're saying. It's frustrating, extremely frustrating. But I can only go back to this development agreement, and if the applicant, which is the Department of Housing, cannot meet these requirements before it gets cold, then they're going to have to get themselves a plan B, so that these folks that we need to look out for have somewhere to go when it gets cold. So I can refer back to Laurel Palmer Thompson to reiterate again that these stipulations in the development agreement have to be adhered to, in including your 4 police officers that you alluded to that will be very difficult to hire. So if Laurel has any other comments for that, but I really do appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Laurel, do you want to wish to add to it?
Yes, Your Worship, through the chair. There really isn't a lot to add. It's just one thing I might mention is prior to the temporary shelter, we did have encampments within the city. So we did have a lot of people that were housed within encampments that weren't safe, that had issues, fire issues, and there was a number of issues. We don't have to go into that. But if this service isn't available in the winter months, then these people will more than likely move into public parks. And there is no, they have the right to move into the public parks and set up encampments. So at least and I can 100% sympathize with the residents' concerns. I mean, 100%, they are legitimate concerns. But at least in this location, it's monitored. There's staff on site to be able to regulate this, more so than if this vulnerable population were to move into public parks and there are no regulations or people monitoring. So that would be the only thing that I would add to this.
Thank you, Laurel. Councillor McTard, this is your second time, sir.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I think my question was generally asked by the Chair of Planning. It was just in regard to ensuring that all terms and conditions needed to be met as part of the permit. So if council approves to move this forward this evening, I guess then it comes back onto the applicant to ensure that they meet the terms and conditions as laid out per the resolution in front of us here. Certainly understand Councillor Duran's points of view. I mean, this has been going on for a year. Things should have been done long before now. I feel that we're up on the 11th hour here trying to determine what's right and what's not right with the weather that's coming. Tonight I feel to support the resolution, based on the fact that all of these terms and conditions will be adhered to prior to a permit being issued to the applicant. Thank you.
Councillor Twill, second time, Councillor Twill.
So there's a lot of emphasis on the terms and conditions that are outlined in the resolution. CAO read them out, Deputy Mayor made reference to them, and nothing's going to proceed. My question is, what happened to the actionable items over the last year? Where was the commitment? Where was the fulfillment? Where was the protection? I said earlier, no credibility, no trust. So why would you want to embark upon an exercise where it's failed? It's failed at the Outreach Center. Had a meeting at Birchwood Junior High School. I co-chaired that meeting. People showed up. Meeting at the Confederation Center. Wasn't really a meeting. I don't know what that was. That was just a Donnybrook. And then another meeting at Birchwood Junior High School that the police called. 2 hours and 15 minutes. 95% of the people. in that community talked about how unsafe they feel in their respective community and neighborhoods. And here we are. Like, how many public meetings do you need, people? How many times do you have to be told? Over and over and over again. And even since that meeting, think it's gotten any better at the Outreach Center? Not in your lifetime. Not in your lifetime. No consideration whatsoever. Needles all over the place. Distribution of drug paraphernalia, I can't even say it now, I'm so upset. And there's no accountability. And why is the onus always put in city council? It's called the old squeeze play. Let's wait, bring the resolution to council just before the winter months hits, put the emphasis right on council. And where's the Premier's office? Don't know. Haven't heard from the Premier. Where's the ministers? Haven't heard from them. We hear from bureaucrats. Some of them don't even live in the city. So we should take what they say as gospel. They had a year. What's their track record? I don't know, folks. I don't know what kind of a message you're sending out to the community, but there's a lot of people upset. And I did say, and I'm going to reiterate, look at all the homes that are for sale. They can't get out of this community fast enough.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Drawn.
A point of order. Laura Palmer Thompson said, if you don't vote for this, where will they go? That's not the issue here. The issue, the buildings can be moved to a more suitable spot. The province has lots of land, lots of electricity. I mean, they put these buildings in place within a few weeks. They can move them. They can move them to a better suitable spot. It's not, if you don't vote for this, these people are homeless. Again, I want to stress, I'm not against a place for people that are down the luck and need a home. I understand, but this place is not the appropriate place. So you don't have to listen. If you don't vote for this, they're going to be sleeping in parks. That's not true. That's not a true statement. There's avenues to go down. The province can come up. They have lots of avenues. But this, they're putting it on our lap once again to say, you have to do this or else. That's not the case here. We have an option. We can make a decision, and we can force it back into their court to move these buildings to a more suitable spot, so the residents of this city are not terrified to live in their home. I'm getting calls all the time, and it's not just here. It's a lot of places where people are scared. I had to deal with it myself this weekend. You don't know what it's like. You don't feel what these residents feel until it happens to you. And you can't sleep. You have to lock your doors 5 times at night. You have to turn all your lights on. Hopefully someone won't come. Until you know what that feels like, don't sit here and say, well, we have to do that. So if you support that, that's your decision. That's going to be on you. But don't put it all on the council, because I certainly don't support this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Twill, or Councillor Drawn. No, it was a comment. Councillor Ramsey.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and I'll be very short. We sat in here last year from the province, and they said it's only a year, they only want it for a year's variance, and I asked the question, so once it's here, and then you people forget about it, and it's dropped in our lap, and that's exactly what happened to us. It's a lot of residents out there think it's a city issue. It's our building and things along that line. But one of the things I'm more frustrated than anything, why they sat on their hands for a year when they knew this was coming back this month, and you can't tell me there's not somebody down there that couldn't have grabbed this file and probably worked on it within the year. That's what frustrates me more. I'll probably support this because of the weather and things that are heading up, and it's only the 1-year variance, and I know they got to reapply, or it's all shut down at the end of next year. But I'm just saying, I'm so frustrated right now with the province because they're sitting on their hands, and they put it on our lap again, as Councillor Drawn said. It's a city issue, which is not.
we're only here to help our residents, and, I mean, they can look at they have to look at themselves in the mirror down there, because it's wrong always. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Ramsey. Okay. Question? Questions called? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Please raise your hand. Okay, Councillor McCabe, Councillor Beck, Councillor McKinnon, Councillor Matart, Councillor Ramsey, Councillor McAleer, Councillor Bernard, and Deputy Mayor Yankoff. Those against? Councillors Twill and Duran. 8-2. Do you want to introduce the next, can we just read it? Okay, can you read this next resolution, CAO Eleanor Mohammed?
Thank you, Your Worship. Planning and Heritage Committee Resolution Number 2, moved by Councillor McAleer, seconded by Councillor Beck. Be it resolved that the request for a temporary use variance to accommodate an overdose prevention site consisting of 2 combined modular units, 14 by 60 and 16 by 60, for a combined 30 by 60, for a period not to exceed 1 year from the date of building and development permit issuance on the northerly portion of the property located at 15 Park Street, PID 365593, be approved subject to the following conditions from Police, Fire, Public Works Departments, and the operational specifications submitted by the PEI Department of Health and Wellness in their application submission. Condition number 1, the province provides the City of Charlottetown Police Services with funding to the satisfaction of the City of Charlottetown Chief of Police under a Safe Spaces Agreement for 6 police officer positions, including 4 for the temporary shelter, to serve the area of influence, which represents a 20-minute walking radius around the boundary of the subject property. See attachment G in the report. For a period of 1 year from the date of building and development permit issuance. Condition number 2, the province funds and operates daily garbage and safe disposal cleanup services within the public right-of-way throughout the area of influence described in condition number 1 above. 3, the province designs and installs fire sprinkler systems within the 2 combined modular structures to the satisfaction of City of Charlottetown Fire Chief. 4, that the main entrance to the facility be relocated to the satisfaction of the manager of the city's Public Works Department. 5, the province designs, funds, and constructs to the satisfaction of the manager of the city's Public Works Department a new public sidewalk and lighting across PIDs 336-537 and 825-927. Ensuring a direct and safe pedestrian connection between the 500 lot area and the overdose prevention site, as well as constructs fencing which restricts access to the subject property from Beach and Park Street. And 6, any future planning and development applications by the province for the subject property shall be fully compliant with the requirements set out in Section 3.5A, Eastern Gateway Waterfront of the City of Charlottetown Official Plan, and Section 44, Comprehensive Development Area Zone of the City of Charlottetown Zoning and Development Bylaw. An extension of the temporary use major variance approval shall be prohibited.
As always, CAO Eleanor, thank you for your read aloud. Deputy Mayor Yankoff, as chair, do you wish to? Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, Your Worship and fellow councillors, I wish to speak in relation to this resolution, which would allow an overdose prevention site to operate at 15 Park Street for a period of 1 year. I will be speaking against this resolution for 3 reasons, and they're all based on community impact. First, a lack of planning on the part of the provincial government. Second, a lack of responsibility on the part of the provincial government. And third, a lack of meaningful consultation by the provincial government within the affected community. So first off, lack of planning. With respect to the lack of planning, I have a number of concerns. When the Park Street unhoused shelter was approved last year, it was on a temporary basis for a year until the province came up with a permanent solution. Now here we are, a year later, and the province is back asking for a further extension of the homeless shelter at 15 Park Street because they haven't finished their environmental assessment of the property. It doesn't take a year to do an environmental assessment, even on a large parcel like 15 Park Street. On the unhoused shelter, I honestly feel that the province is just kicking the can down the road, and there's no reason to believe the same thing won't happen with the safe injection site. I'm also concerned about locating a safe injection site next door to an unhoused shelter. There seems to be some assumption that these two groups of people are compatible, and in my opinion, this is not necessarily the case. Just because you are unhoused doesn't mean you have a drug addiction. And even if you are unhoused and have struggled with addictions, being located next door to a safe injection site may be the absolute worst possible thing that could be done to you. I don't understand why. If the objective is to provide safe injection services for islanders, the proposal is to locate the service in one far corner of Charlottetown. How does this assist islanders living in other parts of the province? Some individuals have commented on the merits of a mobile safe injection service, and I do think that might have a great deal of sense. It would provide better service to those individuals and at the same time would eliminate the need for one community to house this facility. I also think it would be significantly less expensive for taxpayers since the need to transport clients to Park Street would be eliminated for this service. Moving on to lack of responsibility by the provincial government. With respect to lack of responsibility, I am concerned about the province proposing to delegate this service to a non-government organization. In my view, there are certain essential health care services that should be supervised and administered by the provincial government, and the safe injection of drugs is one of them. The community centre on Euston Street is a good example. That facility is operated by a non-government organization, and the issues with the site are well known. I don't mean to speak negatively about the NGO, which is doing its very best in difficult circumstances, but the operation of that community centre is far from ideal. There is no reason to believe that a safe injection site operated by an NGO that has no local experience in providing this service would be any different. Why is the provincial government unwilling to provide this service directly? In my opinion, on such a sensitive service as this, the province needs to accept and not try to deflect their responsibility. The objective here must be for safe delivery of important health care services, and political consideration should not be the rule of the day. Lastly, lack of meaningful consultation. Finally, I do not think there has been adequate public consultation on the proposed safe injection site. The application for the major variance had already been submitted when the meeting at the Confederation took place on July 19th. How committed are you to hearing from the public on a topic if you have already moved forward with the application prior to that meeting? The meeting was held in the middle of the summer, which is a classic move when you're trying to push something through. The meeting was structured so that most of the discussion took place in small groups. Again, classic strategy when you're trying to control the narrative and the agenda for the people that are attending. This resolution, if approved, will have a major impact on this part of the city. Locating the community centre, the unhoused shelter, and now a safe injection site, all in the same part of the city, really places a significant burden upon the residents of this area. I personally think that the burden is too great, but for sure, such a move should not take place unless there had been adequate consultation, and this has not happened. So in conclusion, I will be voting against the resolution approving a major variance at 15 Park Street to permit the operation of a safe injection site. In my view, there has been an absence of proper planning of the part of the provincial government. The proposal also shows a lack of responsibility on the provincial government. And finally, there has been a clear lack of meaningful public consultation. Safe injection sites provide an important service, and it is important that the location and operation of this important service be properly planned and delivered. I'm not convinced that this will happen here, and so I'll be voting no on this resolution. Thank you.
Okay, Deputy, you just get in within the 5 minutes. Councillor McKinnon. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's going to be a tough speech to follow, Deputy. Well said. I also rise, and I will not support this resolution as well for the application for the overdose prevention site. Some of the reasons are there is no long-term plan that the province has come forward with. They don't have a plan to tackle mental health, no plan to tackle addiction, no plan to tackle homelessness in their community. It's been ongoing. As it's been said many times here, they've been given a year. The province hasn't acted on anything yet. I assume that the conditions that are put in this resolution are gonna come, they have to fulfill these by October 13th. And as Councillor Duran stated, it's not possible to get a sidewalk in place, to get 6 police officers hired in 2.5 weeks. My question, I guess, is to the chair, what happens at the 13th that they say, okay, we're gonna give you the money for this, we're gonna have the sidewalk in 2 months, are they still gonna wait until it is completed before they'll give the permit? Just
Yeah.
that,
Councillor McKinnon, do you have some questions? Just wrap them up.
that's the only question, then there's some more points.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Thank you.
Why doesn't and as Deputy Mayor mentioned, mobile unit, better serve the entire province, not just the city of Charlottetown. A lot of the emails that are coming through are asking for the same thing, so. This facility, I believe, is promoting illegal drug use, illegal drug sales. I can't condone this, and it's increasingly making the residents feeling unsafe and uncomfortable leaving their homes, as everybody has stayed here tonight, so I do not support this resolution. Thank you.
Deputy, do you want to answer that question?
Thank you, Councillor McKinnon. The question you asked about the development agreement and the items that are outlined that need to be adhered to before a permit is granted would be the exact same as the first resolution, that they would have to be all completed and signed off on before the Department of Planning and Heritage could issue a permit. If I'm speaking incorrectly, Laurel, you could confirm that for me. Thank you.
Laurel, did she touch all the right points, or did you want to modify it?
Yes, Your Worship, through the chair, she did touch on all the correct points.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Beck.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think for me, this issue has been an extremely difficult one to rectify in my mind. I've done a lot of going back and forth. One day I'm yes, one day I'm no. And I'm sure it's been very similar to everyone else because there's been so much that we've had to digest in trying to arrive at a decision. I've attended all those meetings, I've attended all those presentations, I've read all the emails, the multiple emails that have come through. I've read about what's transpired in other jurisdictions. And I understand the reasons, pro and con, as to why we should be looking or should not be looking at this situation or this proposal. I guess in general, I'm saddened and that we are where we are. And you know, as someone who's lived here my whole life, I take tremendous pride in the city that we have, in the city of Charlottetown. And it saddens me. But we are where we are. We have to deal with what we have to deal with right now. And I have tremendous empathy, and I understand how the impact has been from those who've been living near the outreach center. As the Deputy Mayor alluded to, they are trying their best, but it's just not been a situation that has proved to be workable. And that has to be addressed, for sure. The temporary shelter, again, you know, I'm disappointed that we're back here dealing with temporary once again. You know, to Councillor Duran's point, there was a whole year, and that needle did not get moved over the past year. And that disappoints me. So I've got elements of sadness, I've got elements of disappointment. And at the end of the day, there is no plan. And there is nothing there that we have that we can hook on to and say this is the path, the critical path forward for what we're looking at. So in the end, I guess the reality is the outreach center is not going anywhere. The shelter is staying. We are having it. And I guess if we do nothing, nothing is going to change, in my mind. And we will get more of the same, potentially worse, I'm not sure. That's a big question. No one knows. No one has a crystal ball in this. We're working on hope. We're working, hoping that things are going to get better or the situations are going to be improved. So I really have very little faith in my yeses and my nos. I really don't know. I don't have 100% conviction that I'm doing the right thing here tonight in supporting the OPS Center. And I am going to support the move to go forward with the OPS Center. I do that with a very serious degree of reservation. I do that with multiple questions in mind. And I do that with the realization that it may not be the right move to make. And it may not get approved. And there's a very strong possibility of that too. I guess the one thing that I do look at it, and it kind of goes back to my point that is there anything that we can do to try and provide some level of support to those people who are regrettably and unfortunately in the throes of addiction and dealing with that terrible disease? And is there something that we can do to provide a level of support to them? And in the absence of any long-term plan or sustainable plan, this looks as something, regardless of whether I feel that it is the right thing or not, it is a measure that could be put forth. The fact that there is a one-year time limit, it does allow us to get some data or some information to see whether it is a method, what is being proposed as the benefits of it, we will be able to see whether it works or not. So in short, I'm supporting the OPS for this 1 year. I do so reservedly, I do so cautiously, and I don't do it wholeheartedly. So I am going to support the motion, but I do want to understand that this has not been an easy decision on my part, not been an easy decision on anyone's part here as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Beck. Councillor Drawn.
My button, am I good? Okay. Maybe I can help Councillor Beck. I'm not one way or another. I'm definitely no. We do have an opportunity here tonight. We can say no to this and force the province to do a mobile unit that they would do on their own. And we don't have to wear this. At the end of the day, this is allowing illegal drugs. And I'll throw it out there. This is what happens. You get a person that's in addiction going to their drug dealer, buying some drugs, going down to the site, giving it to a person to test to see if the drug dealer either mixed it wrong or mixed it right. That's the 50-50 chance you get. So they're going to go in, okay, good to go, take the drugs, sit there, say, okay, 15 minutes, I didn't overdose, and I'm walking out the door. Where are they going to go? Are they going to go to someone's residence in that area? Are they going to be high going down the street? We don't know this. These drugs are something that we never dealt with before. And it's scary. It's scary coming into this meeting. You see a bunch of kids smoking crack in a pipe. I don't know why they're not arrested. I don't know. I can't understand it. If I was intoxicated and I had a quart in my hand, they'd pick me up, arrest me, and throw me in jail. But they won't do that to someone that's bent over high, down at Ken's Corner, whatever. I don't understand that. These are illegal drugs. The government of Canada has said you cannot take these drugs, but we're going to let them put them in their pocket that they just bought from a drug dealer and go in and do this in the site. That is wrong. I was raised that is wrong. I'll never accept that. So don't sit here and say, you know what? And I'm not putting words, these are my words. You can't sit here and say, I feel bad, but I'm going to support you. You know, we don't know what's going to happen. There's places in Montreal, they're shutting these things down because they can't control it. You know, why can't they go to the hospital? Get a nurse, get a doctor, get someone to give them the drugs. Why is it down here in this community, on this residence? Again, terrifying these people. They don't know what to do. I can't emphasize that enough. In addictions, I have addicts calling me all the time that were blessed to get through it and get some help. You know, my own father, you know, he had addiction problems. And when he hit rock bottom, he stopped. We can't keep helping these people. They're not going to hit rock bottom, and they're not going to stop until this happens. You know, addicts tell you, this doesn't work. You're helping them. What else? Police. We're getting four for the shelter. We're getting 6 for this. Where are we getting these police? Are we going to take them from the resources that we have? You know, is that going to make some residents, you know, do without the services? Where are all these police coming? You know, we can't get them on a good day to come here. I just don't understand it. Vote no. This will force the province that if they decide to go with a mobile unit, they would wear it. That's the way I see it. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Drawn, Councillor Matard.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think I got bumped several times from the mic there, but again, as I stated earlier, over the past 7 months, I've spoken with many residents in and around the affected area regarding the proposed overdose prevention sites. Many residents are against having overdose prevention services offered in a residential neighborhood. Residents are generally concerned for their safety, their property, their well-being, and the unknown. There have already been some challenging situations for the current site over the last 7 to 8 months. The fear of adding a safe injection site service to this site will only likely increase those situations and pose a greater risk to the safety of the community. I attended the information sessions that the harm reduction team held regarding the proposed safe injection site at 33 Belmont Street and Park Street. And the sessions were met with strong opposition as these proposed sites are within residential areas near families, children, seniors, trails, parks, and businesses. Residents feel there hasn't been proper consultation, planning, and input by the residents, and feel they are being tested in many ways with the desire to have all of these services located in one location, Park Street. Some feel scared to leave their homes unattended, afraid to leave personal belongings in fear they'll be stolen, a fear of unprovoked altercations, and the use of illegal drugs in their neighborhood. There is apprehension that the OPS is not being operated by trained health professionals, but rather by NGO organizations that require several levels of training. The OPS may be fixing one problem, but creating many others for the residents. At the information sessions, it was suggested an OPS would be within 15 to 20-minute walking distance. What does that truly mean? 15 to 20 minutes from where? Does this suggest that those in need are typically from the downtown core of Charlottetown only? What about those in need across the city and the island? How do they benefit from an OPS located on Park Street? Furthermore, the service is only offered at specific times of the day. What happens to those in need who need this service at varying hours? Addictions are not defined by business hours, and nor should harm reduction. There have been many suggestions about offering the service in alternative locations like the old Sherwood Home near the QEH and a local medical center. Since the old Sherwood Home is located about 20 minutes past the Park Street shelter, why can't the government provide busing services to those who wish to use the service? Busing services are currently being offered at the Park Street shelter now. I've suggested to the government to implement a mobile OPS. This would bring the service directly to those in need across the entire city, our neighboring communities, and across the province. These are less intrusive options which are not directly placing the service in neighborhoods close to children, parks, schools, etc. I can't stress enough the fear and unrest expressed by the residents in this area. As a councillor of Ward 2, many of the residents have asked me to be their voice and bring their concerns forward here tonight in hopes that you too will understand their concerns and fears in having a safe injection site placed in their neighborhood. The residents want and deserve a quality of life in their neighborhood, a good quality of life in their neighborhood. They should not have to be afraid of the unknown and subjected to undue stress, fear, and anxiety. In closing, to quote our Chief of Police, if you do not feel safe, you are not safe. I can tell you, many of the residents in this area do not feel safe. So I will not support this resolution before us tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Matart, thank you very much for those words. Councillor Bernard.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, and I have to say I'm very much like Councillor Beck. This is not an easy decision at all. But it appears to me there's a lot of unanswered questions, and I wonder why, and I know I asked for this last month, I don't know why we can't defer this resolution until we have a meeting with the province to find out what the long-term plans are, answer a lot of the questions that are unanswered here tonight. I'm reluctant to vote on this at all until we get some answers from the province, and I will put a deferral on the floor until we have that meeting.
So you're putting a deferral on the floor. I need a seconder for that deferral. Councillor Ramsey has seconded deferral, so the discussion right now is about the deferral. Okay, do you want to speak to the deferral?
Well, I do in the sense, I mean, I'm hearing that the OPS is not going to be operated by trained professionals. We're hearing questions about the hiring of police officers. Can we get 4 police officers? There's a lot of questions in what we're saying has to happen before we'll give them a permit that we don't know if they have time to make it happen. So I think the council needs to have a meeting, the people that make the decisions from the province, to find out, to get these answers. I feel like I'm voting on something, and I can understand what Councillor Beck is saying, because it's back and forth, but I want to have to put up with that? No. And these people are putting up with a lot. The mobile unit you talked about makes a lot of sense to me. So to me, I'd like to have that meeting to find out what the long-term plans are for us to make these decisions. And if I can't get that meeting, I mean, I'm not looking to vote on this tonight at all. And that's why I'm looking for the deferral, Your Worship, to try and get some answers.
So on the deferral, it's again, 2 chances to speak, 5 minutes, 2 minutes. So I have Councillor Tweel and then Councillor Duran. Now, Councillor Tweel, it's on the deferral. That's what we're discussing. Or do you want to wait? Okay, can you just close your mic there? Councillor Duran?
Well, I'll
On the
certainly
deferral.
say, on the deferral.
Yeah.
They came with an application. Let's see what happens. They put it in. Let's city council vote on it. All these questions should have been answered before it got here. But they want to put it on us, all of us, to okay it. I think we have enough support here tonight to say no to this. We don't want this. We don't want this in our residence area. We don't want this in the city. We'll say no to it now. Let them do their mobile thing and serve the province like the way they should. Don't dump it on the city residents of Charlottetown to deal with this. And those poor people that are in that area around it, they're terrified. They don't know what to expect. What are we going to do? Sit back and say, well, we'll try it for a year, see what happens. Look what we did last year. Look what the shelter did. Look what the Curling Club did. And now we're going to try this. And if it doesn't work out, so be it. I say no. Let's vote on this. Say no to them and force them to do the mobile thing, and they'll wear it instead of us always wearing things. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Yankoff.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just in terms of a deferral, if, and I know Councillor Bernard read the report in detail, just as the Chair of Planning, there has been a lot of work done on this file in terms of the province preparing their applications, and I just don't see there's going to be any more additional new information based on what the province has asked for in these two variance applications. And if there was any clarification that was required, the applicant could have been here this evening and we could have asked them, but they've chosen not to be here. So therefore, I don't see a deferral as really a solution going forward. What I see is encouraging all three levels of government and with public input and everybody that's affected by this to work together out of their silos going forward and find a solution for this. But we're not going to do that tonight. So we need to find a path forward. So I won't be supporting the deferral. Thank you.
Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm sorry, excuse me.
It's
Okay,
Councillor
excuse me.
McAleer, it's on the deferral. And
I
as-
won't be supporting the deferral.
No, yeah. Just on government being here, I know that, and correct me if I'm wrong, CAO Eleanor, but our planner, who is Laura Palmer Thompson, she's answering the questions because that's who we get the answers from, our professional staff. We don't allow other bodies to come in when we have a public meeting. So I think she's done and I know you agree that she's done a great job in answering those. Councillor Matar, did you have your button? Yeah, okay. Questions called? Okay. On the deferral, who's in favor of the deferral, please put up your hand. Okay, 1. Against? Okay, 9-1. So we're back to the original resolution. Councillor Ramsey.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Being the chair for protective emergency, and they're looking for 4 officers and then 6 officers for the 2 units if they go through. But that's for 1 year. We, as a city and the CPS, will certainly not get officers here just for work for 1 year. So this is something that's got to be looked at again, and then it's going to be dropped in our plate after the year's variance is gone. So we employ 10 more officers. So it's nice to sit there and say that you're going to pay for 10 officers for 1 year. So then what happens to those same 10 officers when the year's up? Like, we say, okay, go back to Ontario, St. John, Summerside, wherever you're from. I mean, we don't need you anymore. So that's the thing we got to look at too. Thank you.
Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be supporting the resolution to approve a 1-year variance on the OPS injection site in Park Street. This is not without trepidation and concern for all involved. My decision is based on the temporary status of the request, i.e., a 1-year variance, and is not meant to assume that any future requests for this location would have my support. Through this process, I and other councillors have spoken with people working within the system, at the Outreach Centre, emergency shelter, chief of police, police officers, residents, fellow councillors, and reviewed articles on the Canadian experience. I've attended, as many of you have, at public meetings at Memorial Hall, Birchwood School, Planning Board's public meeting, had discussions with MLAs, reviewed letters from residents in favor of or objecting to this request. However, the Planning Department staff recommendation is to approve the variance for this property. I have confidence that the staff have completed due diligence in determining the approval of this variance, including recommendations such as we know, a 1-year variance, non-renewable, infrastructure additions, fencing, entryway, sidewalks, and 6 additional police officers, including 4 for the temporary shelter that would support residents' concerns about hopefully a safer neighborhood. I see value in the in the temporary one-year approval for an OPS site. As indicated by the Government of PEI in the Park Street session summary, there will be a process and outcome evaluation. This will assist in determining if the program was implemented as designed and if it produced the desired output and outcomes. The creation of an OPS site on land that is owned by the province is a provincial public health issue with the responsibility under the PEI Department of Health and Wellness. I believe we can all agree that the government of PEI needs to provide a long-term plan to address this issue in the province. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McAleer. Councillor Twill.
Application for overdose prevention site. Well, if you look at the improvisation at the outreach center, that's what that's become over the last number of months, over the past year. Any drug you want, you can get it. Drug paraphernalia is handed out. There'll be a van up there again tonight handing out drug paraphernalia. Just take a drive by and watch it. Watch the episode. On and on and on. No checks, no balances. To correct these illegal activities that are taking place in between two city schools, next door to a senior citizens complex, in between two apartment complexes, residents that live at Oliver Street, Birchwood, Euston, Alexander Drive, Lapthorne Avenue. I've talked to those residents for the past 2 years. You know what they're asking? What is going on with our city? What's happened to our city? And again, you know, the constant theme is, in the 11th hour, the provincial government, let's do the squeeze play. Put the squeeze on. Council says no, then the government can say, well, we tried, but the city said no. And then if council says yes, then the province can say, well, it was up to the city. They said yes. So they get to sit back and play checkers while we're trying to play chess. Really and truly, it's amazing. Proper location for a facility of this magnitude should be at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital campus. That's where it should be. With the proper medical treatment, clinical treatment. That's where it should be. What has stopped this government from effectively drawing up these plans and moving ahead so that all the amenities that are truly required of a facility this magnitude are not facilitated in a venue that is needed for this city and this province? But no, it's always a haphazard measure. It's always a quick fix. And it's always a game of chess versus a game of checkers. And we'll just put it on the city. I'm truly amazed that we haven't heard from the chief medical officer. We've heard from subordinates a lot lower down the food chain, but we haven't heard from the chief medical officer. She's on the 6 o'clock news every night with the premier talking about the pandemic, and I'm sure we're going to see her again over this whole renewed COVID that seems to be coming back. You can bet any amount of money that she's going to be on the 6 o'clock news, but we've yet to hear from the chief medical officer on issues pertaining to this, up to this nature and this magnitude, and how it's affected this community. So if you want to know how it's going to function, just look at the outreach center. There's a classical case in point. A classical case in point that has decimated this community and has for a long period of time. People now are starting to speak out, but they were afraid because of retribution. They were terrified. No, Councillor Durand's right. People are scared. They're really scared. So whether it's the outreach center down on Park Street, Beach Street, they're terrified. Make no mistake about it. And really and truly, when do we give these people a break? When do we give these law-abiding taxpayers a chance to have a quality of life that exists in other parts of the city, whether it's Brighton or Lewis Point Park? Why can't we have the same quality of life? I'd like somebody here in this chair to answer that question. Why can't we have the same quality of life that exists in other parts of the city, instead of being treated like fifth-class citizens?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Twill. I did speak to Mayor Don Mitchell today from Whitby, Ontario, about the homeless situation, the OPS, and communities throughout Ontario, Quebec are encountering the same issues, so we're not alone. Same in the Atlantic region. Okay. Question? Questions, Carl? Okay, I have the resolution here. All those in favor of the resolution, please raise your hand. Okay, I have Councillors Bernard, Councillor McAleer, Councillor Beck in favor. All those against, please raise your hand. Deputy Mayor Yankoff, Councillor Ramsey, Councillor Matard, Councillor Twill, Councillor McCabe, Councillor Duran, and Councillor McKinnon. 7-3. Now, my understanding, CAO Eleanor, we now have rejected this resolution, so we have to pass another resolution rejecting the proposal from planning. Is that correct? Okay, can you read that? So it's a second resolution. Yeah, no, it has, oh yes, we've done it before, yes. An affirmed resolution, if it's turned down, another resolution has to be introduced to reject the, You rejected the resolution, now we're rejecting the OPS site. That's what we're doing. We've done this before.
Sorry, I'm not following.
I'm going to let CAO Eleanor or Laurel Palmer Thompson, just for the public record, I believe under the Planning Act, can you clarify it?
I'm sorry, Your Worship, could you please repeat that?
Okay, we have a resolution now to reject the recommendation from the planning board. So we need a resolution for that. Yes or no?
That's correct.
That's correct. Because a resolution was passed by the planning board to come here. We rejected it. Now we need a resolution rejecting the resolution in a motion. So it's another resolution, correct? No, we've done it before. We've done it before. Councillor Twill's been here. You know what? Now, just 1 second. We'll get legal opinion. First of all, I want to say that Laurel is a professional planner. So Laurel's opinion to me counts. But if you wish to get a legal opinion, we'll ask our lawyer.
I just never seen this.
Yes, we've done it before. Yeah.
I believe it has been done before.
Oh, yes.
It seems to be more of the practice. Lest there be any doubt, you could infer from the previous resolution being defeated that what the result would be. But yes, I think the best procedure is to proceed and now with a motion to reject, which presumably will pass 7-3. Unless somebody changes their mind.
And that could happen. So it has to be moved and second. Deputy Mayor Yankoff, do you want to move it? And seconded by? Seconded Councillor Twill? Okay.
Worship. Moved by Deputy Mayor Yankoff, seconded by Councillor Twill. Be it resolved that the request for a temporary use variance to accommodate an overdose prevention site consisting of 2 combined modular units, 14 by 60 and 16 by 60, for a combined 30 by 60 for a period not to exceed 1 year from the date of building and development permit issuance on the northerly portion of the property located at 15 Park Street, PID 365593, be rejected.
Questions, Carl? Now, All those in favor of the rejection, please put up your hand. In favor of the rejection. Councillor Twill, Councillor McCabe, Councillor Duran, Councillor McKinnon, Deputy Mayor Yankoff, Councillors Matard and Councillor Ramsey. All those against the rejection. Councillor Bernard, Councillor McAleer, and Councillor Beck. Motion carried. I do want to thank the participation from council in the discussion, the debate, and the final decision. And I thank Eleanor and the staff for forwarding all this information. Laurel Palmer Thompson, David, thank you for forwarding this information. And if Donna is still there, same with her. Thank you very much. I need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, moved, seconded. All those in favor? Thank you kindly.